All right. Welcome to the Knicks Film School post-game show presented by BetUS. Here after the Knicks lost to the Detroit Pistons, final score 124 to 119. Lots to talk about in this game. And I don't know if this is a silver lining, a gift or a curse, but it feels like for the first time in a while we could actually discuss the basketball involved in the basketball game, because there's a lot of legitimate basketball stuff to talk about as far as why the Knicks lost that game, as opposed to, it feels like for the first time in forever we don't have to talk about the energy or really that's really been the conversation, right? For a while now, do the Knicks have enough energy, and or shooting slumps? What other kind of amorphous things, whether anybody's coming to play or someone's, not living up to their end of the bargain. Like, the Knicks showed up, like all their players went out and like played, commensurate games. Some guys had better games than others. Not everybody was great. I don't think anybody was terrible. We can talk about a rotation thing or two if you want. But at the end of the day, the Knicks lost that basketball game because they could not defend. And that is a bit of an issue. And it's an issue specifically in the way that they could not defend in this game. And you saw it down the stretch, specifically in the last, whatever it was, 5-6 minutes of the fourth quarter. And let me just say at the top, before I get into the X's and O's of this game, I wanted to say this at the top, that like these are not your slightly older cousins, Detroit Pistons, over the last 5 years. Like, this is a real team. I know there are only 2 games after over 500 after this, but they have now won. I think they have now won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of their last 12 games. Sorry, 11 of their last 13 games. Sorry, yeah. Or 11 of their last 14 games. Yeah, I could add. So 11 of their last 14, 10 of their last 12. Their only 2 losses were close competitive losses to some good teams. So they're a real team. Like, they're here. I would not be surprised at all if they wound up in like the 6th spot in the Eastern Conference playoffs. But that's like, if you're a contending team, you're at home, it's a close game in the fourth quarter. Like, you still go win the game if you're a serious team who has its shit together. And right now, I think that's what's left for us to decide. Did the Knicks lose this game because they're not quite a serious team yet? And because they didn't have their shit together? Or are there some real flaws here? And I think that's the direction that I want to go. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know the answer to that question, but before the season started, after they made the trade for Karl-Anthony Towns, the question was, can a team with 2 minus defenders, or if you don't want, if that's too harsh a term for some people out there, with 2 defenders who are targetable in different ways by a half decent offense, and like Detroit, I think I know whatever, they're not ranked in the top half of the league. Like, they're at the very least a half decent offense. Like, they have an all-star at the point of it. Like, they're leading the charge. He is refined and actually is excelling at the one weak spot that he always had in his game, which is the 3-point shot off the dribble. Hurt the Knicks in that way, which has completely changed the way that you have to guard him now. Can't go under anymore. You have to honor the 3. And they've surrounded him with shooters. And that's what people in Detroit have been saying for years. Like, just give Cade shooting around him. He's gotten better. They've put shooters around him, including arguably best pound for pound shooter in the game in Malik Beasley. If you look at his percentages over the last few years, you're not going to find many people better than Malik Beasley. And sure enough, it's Malik Beasley who hits 2 threes against them in the final, whatever it is, 60, 70, 80 seconds. The two key shots of the game. And why did Malik Beasley hit those 2 threes? It's because Josh Hart rotated off of him in the corner to go cover Tim Hardaway Jr. And the reason he had to go cover Tim Hardaway Jr. is because the Pistons put Tim Hardaway Jr. Into the action to get Jalen Brunson involved. And why did they do that? It's because Jalen Brunson's a weak defender. So how did the Knicks respond? Well, they weren't going to concede the switch because they did not want to have Jalen Brunson one-on-one against Cade Cunningham during a second half when he was truly feeling it. And so they both times briefly put 2 on the ball. Cade made the pass both times. Josh Hart rotated over to Timmy at the top of the key both times. First time, there was absolutely no subsequent rotation to Malik Beasley. Nailed the 3, obviously. Said the last play, the play that'll really stick in the Knicks' craw here. Cat, you saw Cat flying out. He was late, or Josh Hart shouldn't have rotated as hard. Like, they didn't have their shit together. They didn't have their shit together. But to just watch that game and say, the Knicks defense stinks, I think I don't, like, yes, it did stink in this game. They gave up 124 points at home to the Pistons. It stunk tonight. It was not good enough. Like, when they got a stop, you felt like, oh my God, what a reprieve. Like, what did we do to get this gift from the gods? That's not, like, if you're a contending team and you're celebrating stops against the Detroit Pistons, something is off. Or you're not a contending team. It's one of those two things. And I think the question now is to figure out, okay, why? What's the deal? Could we say that the Pistons are a particularly poor matchup for the Knicks because they have a lead initiator with real size? Yeah, you could say that, but you could also say that they have hiding places for Jalen Brunson. Like, you could hide Jalen Brunson on Timmy. You could hide Jalen Brunson even on Beasley as long as he stays connected. Like, so, and it's not like they have the sort of fives. I mean, I know Beef Stew had did a couple of nice things, especially in the first half, but it's not like they have fives that can really punish Cat, when they have the ball. So I don't think I'm going to buy that argument that this is like a bad matchup or something for the Knicks. I think what you have to look at right now is, and you could go in one of two directions. You could say it's like you're never going to be able to build a good enough championship level defense around Jalen Brunson or Karl Anthony Towns, or you could build a championship level defense around Jalen Brunson or Karl Anthony Towns. But in order to do so, the 3 wings that you went out and compiled, Josh Hart almost 2 years ago now, OG Anunoby a little bit more than a year ago now, and Mikal Bridges, I guess about 7 months ago now. Like, those guys have to be phenomenal. Not good, maybe somewhere between great and phenomenal. And when a team like that has it going, like, that's why you go out and you get an OG Anunoby. That's why you traded for Mikal Bridges. And to be very clear, I thought Bridges did some nice things against Cade, certainly in the first half. His defense against Cade in the first half was really good. In the beginning of the second half, when you knew Cade Cunningham was going to try to put his stamp on this game, I thought Mikal Bridges, who, granted, the Knicks wouldn't have even been in that game late in the fourth quarter if Mikal Bridges didn't hit a bunch of threes, so I want to just, like, get that out of the way. They needed him, and he did a lot more good than bad in this game. But, like, during that key moment of the game where the Pistons were like, yeah, we're going to, this thing's going to the fourth quarter. And actually, it was more than that. The Pistons, I think they went up by as many as 9 a few times there towards the end of the third, maybe in the beginning of the fourth. But, like, Bridges didn't put the cuffs on at the beginning of the third. And then what did they do after Cade Cunningham started 4 for 4 from the field in the third quarter? They switched OG Anunoby onto him. Well, guess what? That didn't work. I thought OG Anunoby was bad in this game. And I know he finished 5 for 9 from the field, only took 2 threes, missed them both. Like, that's a game where your 41 or $42.5 million a year investment has to be like, don't worry, guys, I got this. Cade's not beating you tonight. Cade's not beating us tonight. And they tried that. Tibbs tried that move 3 minutes into the second half. It didn't work. Now, again, am I putting this loss all on OG Anunoby? No, I'm not putting it all on OG Anunoby. It's not all on him. He's one guy. The way the NBA is today, you can't defend. Like, you need your team to defend an even decent, half decent offense. And it's not all on OG. And then there was Josh Hart, who was the guy who rotated off of Beasley on those final 2 shots. Whereas, I mean, me and Benji just watched the game. It's like, let Timmy Let Timmy make a play. Why don't you show on? Don't completely rotate. Show on Tim, and then be ready to hedge back in time to contest the shot. Make Tim Hardaway Jr. beat you. Don't let Malik Beasley beat you, but he did. And those weren't the only plays from Josh because, and this is where we could get into a little bit of the coaching decision making. You really didn't feel Josh Hart's impact, and he was kind of soft on defense through a lot of that third quarter when the Pistons really made their push to go from a halftime deficit to going up by 9 because he had 4 fouls. And despite the fact that he had 4 fouls, he stayed in the game. Second half of the game, Deuce McBride played 3 minutes, which is borderline inexplicable, especially when you factor in that the lineup that I thought was the best the Knicks looked in the entire game, certainly the best the Knicks looked on defense the entire game. And I know Cade may have been out for most or all of this stretch, but it was that stretch in the second quarter when you had Cam Payne. I even wrote down the lineup. It was Cam Payne. It was, thought I wrote it down. Yeah. Cam Payne, Deuce McBride, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, and Karl Anthony Towns. That lineup really had something going. And they brought good energy, and it was everything you want. Now, he lengthened the leash on Cam Payne a little bit, gave Cam Payne a decent amount of run into the fourth quarter there. But he didn't give Deuce the run, which I was, okay, it's interesting. Maybe he doesn't feel like Deuce is all the way back yet. Maybe he doesn't feel like he's his usual self. I thought he looked pretty good in the first half. And you know me, very last person in Knicks land to ever call out anything that the coach does. But in retrospect, you wonder if maybe an earlier insertion of Deuce would have helped stem the tide there. Now, I say that about Josh Hart. Josh Hart did a lot of really good things in this game. He rebounded like a madman. He pulled down, I think it was a game high 14 rebounds, 4 on the offensive glass. The guy made a bunch of plays, I thought, over the course of time. But again, it goes back to the theory of the theory of the case, as I keep referring to it as. The theory of the case is those your perimeter defenders, when both Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns are in the game, the other three guys, when those 2 guys are in the game, have to be top notch on defense. And they just were not tonight. We could talk about some other stuff. We could talk about Landry Shamet probably playing his way out of the rotation at this point. It was interesting. He got back in the rotation tonight. Tibbs played a 9-man rotation in the first half for the first time, feels like, in a while. Didn't go great. Shamet was bad. I thought this was yet another poor game from Precious Achiuwa. Played only 10 minutes, and 5 of those were at the 5, or 5 of them were at the 5, 5 of them were at the 4, because Karl Anthony Towns, 43 minutes on the second night of back-to-back. Now, I know Towns didn't play a ton last night, but he played enough last night that I'm sure he's feeling those 43 minutes right now. Joel Embiid doesn't play basketball anymore, so I don't know if he's coming to the Garden on Wednesday for that matchup, but sure, either way, be nice, to have a fresh Karl Anthony Towns on Wednesday. Hopefully he gets a lot of recovery in the next 48 hours. But and again, I'll give credit to Benji. He was calling it out as we were watching this thing on the playback. Tibbs clearly right now just has no faith in anybody else on this team to play center. You got a report from Stephen Bondi before the game that Jericho Sims is on the trading block. I mean, if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about Jericho Sims' place on the team, I don't know what will. Precious Achiuwa, again, 5 minutes at the 5 tonight. And anybody who watches him at the 5, can you really argue? He has not been good. He has not been good this year. And so what is it? Is it we're sitting here, we're waiting for Mitch? I mean, I don't know. I mean, how long are we waiting for? Is it going to be early February? Maybe. Was it going to be 3 weeks? Is it going to be the All-Star break? That's a long time. It's a long time, and a lot of miles could be put on your All-Star and All-NBA likely center over the course of that time. If you if you don't watch yourself here. Is there another trade coming? The report, and again, Stephen Bondy said that Sims was out tonight because of back spasms, not because he's about to be traded. So we'll see what happens there. Haporti's a rookie. He's a 58th pick in the draft. Like, you think that's the answer? So I don't know, but it all factors in. And like, yeah, there's other stuff we could talk about. The Knicks committed 19 turnovers tonight, which is like, that's just, it's crazy. Excuse me, 18 turnovers. They had him at 19, and they must have taken away a turnover. And Pistons scored, 21 points off those 18 turnovers, which isn't, relatively is not bad, but it's still way too many. You don't want to give up 18 turnovers. And we should probably talk about the key turnover of the game, the one that the Pistons smartly challenged. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and blame Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson, I thought, by and large, had a really good game. Ended up with 31 points and 11 assists, 12 of 24 shooting. Did have 4 turnovers, and Karl Anthony Towns, 6 turnovers. Again, he had 26 points on 17 shots. Like, those are good stat lines from Brunson and Cat. But, like, again, it all comes back to the theory of the case. You assembled this team. So you got to – your non-Brunson, non-Cat people got to be pretty perfect on defense. And then Cat and Brunson – like, you're not going to say they have to be perfect on offense, but like, you don't expect them to botch what should have been an easy play. Like, Brunson should have just like hit Towns immediately on the pick and pop. And he didn't. And then it was a miscommunication. The ball went out of bounds. Like, that's the sort of thing that hurts. I'm not getting on Brunson for like, we missed the 3 late, whatever. Brunson did more than enough scoring. I thought Towns, from an offensive standpoint, was fine. And then I guess if you really want to take away a big picture silver lining from this game, it's Mikal Bridges, 6 of 8 from deep. And I mentioned it at the top, but I will close by that, and I'll give my autograph signature moment of the game to the Mikal Bridges 3 that made it 118 to 117. With I don't even know how many minutes remaining, but it was the biggest shot of the game by far. Massive pressure 3. The thing about Bridges is, like, yeah, that was with 126 to go. And then they actually got the stop on Cade. And by the way, Bridges, I know I just killed him a little bit for his defense at the start of the third quarter. His defense on Cade after that 3 on that very next possession was excellent. It was excellent. Forced Cade into a tough 19-foot step back jump shot. And that is when they should have had the opportunity to take the lead. And instead there was the turnover. And then you got the first of the 2 Malik Beasley 3-pointers, which was just a killer. So yeah, that 3 by Bridges, and the shooting game in general by Bridges, that's your autograph signature moment of the game. I'm going to come back to Bridges in a second. But go download the autograph app, use code KFS, get rewarded for your fandom. I know I said last night that my weekly 3x3 was going to be up today. It's going to be up tomorrow because I wanted to get my thoughts in on this game before I posted that. So stay tuned for that. Okay. One more thing, Kev, give me one more sec because I want to finish my point on Beasley or on Bridges, and then we'll go to the ad read, and then we'll go to the super chats. It would be easy for me to sit here and be like, okay, great, Bridges turned the corner, and I think back to shout out to Benji again, his grade book it was free for everybody today. But usually it's going to be on Patreon, where he opened the Bridges section by saying, what a weird year, or what a strange year. I forget which word he used. I'll use the word odd. What an odd year, because it's not like he was atrocious for the first 19 games of the season, but he was not the guy that they thought they were going to get. Doing some nice things, doing some not nice things. And then he's essentially plays like an all-star for a month. And then the last 2 weeks, he's been kind of not exactly the same guy he was at the beginning of the year, but it's been like not great. And so now he has this great shooting game. I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to go on another little run here. It's just been a very up and down year for a guy whose calling card over the course of his career has been consistency. So I hope that this puts all of that behind him and it's only smooth sailing from here. But if you told me there was going to be some more up and down coming from Mikal Bridges, I wouldn't be shocked. But yeah, that's if you want to have a big picture kind of positive to take away from this game, I guess it would be Bridges. But for me, the bigger picture thing is a little bit more negative, which is, this is their bed that they made. This is their bed that they made, and like you have Karl-Anthony Towns on your team, you have Jalen Brunson on your team. Got to figure out a way to win games like this. Because sometimes the team is going to hit whatever they hit tonight, 44% from three. You got to figure out a way to get stops. And like I said on the playback, this wasn't the Cavs you were playing tonight, or the Celtics, or the Mavs. This wasn't any of those teams. Like, you really got to, they have to up their game. Do I think they could do it? Yeah, I think they can do it. It would have been nice to see it in the fourth quarter of a game that, like, I know I was watching it and I was like, man, it'd be nice to get one of these wins one of these days pretty soon. And they didn't get it. So we move on. But before we move on, of course, we have a quick word from our friends at Rocket Money. So the deal with Rocket Money. I've talked about it for a little while now. It's a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending, and it helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. And how does it do that? Like, again, everybody has apps that they have downloaded. Everybody has, people might have magazine subscriptions that they still are paying for that they don't know about. Like, so many things that you sign up for and you don't give it a second thought. I know another one that I haven't even mentioned is like I had signed up for, I forget what, some like, not like Adobe, but some kind of like something that was supposed to help me like cut up like film or whatever on the computer. And I wanted to use it once. I'm like, I'm not gonna use this anymore. Rocket Money made me see that I've been paying for this freaking thing for longer than I care to admit. So Rocket Money will help you just like it has helped over 5 million users, and they've saved those users over a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving them up to $740 a year when using the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/gameon today. That's rocketmoney.com/gameon. rocketmoney.com/gameon. Okay. Let's see what people want to talk about tonight. I have a feeling not going to be very many positives. But so. Colin Reardon starts us off. I might be done on this season. They don't want it. Okay, here we go. Right off the bat. We're done on the season. The team is on a 52-win pace. But we're done. Okay. We're off to a rare start here. Thank you, Colin. All right, we got a bunch from Busy. So I'm going to read everything for Busy, and then I'm going to try to address everything. Cade would have naturally shrunk the floor by taking JB into the post. The help would have had less space to cover rotating over. You see other teams do it all the time. Being overscared to let your weak defenders guard is a flawed mindset at the end of the day. JB and Cat are still NBA players who at times have come up with big plays on the defensive end. Instead of hiding them for a full 48, challenge them. Got one more from Busy. But maybe you're right. It might be too much to ask from a coach that baby Julius for years. I don't think that is a different category. The babying of Julius, that was about a above the neck thing. That was about a mindset. That was about, I got to keep this guy engaged. I can't lose this guy. We know what that was about. This isn't that. This is, he's not afraid. I mean, God knows he's not afraid to challenge Jalen Brunson. He's not worried about Jalen Brunson's ego. And frankly, I don't think he's worried about Cat's ego. I definitely think that there was some healing healing that needed to be done. I think those guys are on the same page here. As I see Benji's tweet, 41 games into the season, the combined impact of Bridges and Anunoby has fallen short of expectations. Their defense has not lived up to the preseason hopes, and their offense has not been strong enough to compensate. I know Bridges' offense was very good tonight, but I agree. Anyway, and then we got a quote from Josh Hart. We're losing games I feel like we shouldn't be losing. If we're going to be a team we want to be, we got to start correcting mistakes. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, agree with all that. As far as your comment, Busy, so do you just switch? I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's crazy at all. I do think that, I mean, so what do you're basically saying if you switch it, you could still send the help, but you could send the help from a different spot where you're not opening up like as big a hole or whatever. That's fair. Can we at least agree that they did not properly execute either of those possessions, either of those Beasley possessions? They didn't properly execute either of them. I don't think anyone would argue with that. Like, if you have allowed Malik Beasley to shoot an open or even a relatively open three, guys, I don't know what his percentage is at right now, but the guy's a great shooter. From the corner, no less. It is reasonable to me, at least, to say that you have not executed the play properly. And I know what the coach is going to say. The coach is going to say, if anybody ever asks him about a scheme change, he's going to say, was the effort there? Was the execution there? And if the effort's there and the execution's there and it doesn't work, all right, then you change it. He's going to look at that and he's going to say the execution wasn't there. And we should be able to execute. Now, does it get to a point where the people that you are asking to execute properly you have enough of a sample size to know that they are not capable of executing on a consistent enough basis? That's one question that you could ask. And then it gets into some of the interesting nitty-gritty, which we saw throughout this game, but we saw particularly on that last play. Cat has been derided for his defense throughout his entire NBA career. And it's not just that, like, the stupid rim protection stuff, which, like, I honestly, at this point, I could care less about that. It's more about, like, making the proper rotation, knowing, like, where to be, like, making the right switch, not switching when it's not time to switch. We saw that a couple times throughout the game where Cat was involved in that stuff, but, like, so was OG involved in that stuff. And Benji was talking about it. Like, okay, whose job is it to call out? Switch. I got it. Whatever. Like that, like whatever you're calling out. Whose job is it to call out there? And did they call out? Did they not call out? Like, these are things that we don't know the answer to. And even on that last play, you see Cat flying out. If that was always the plan for Cat to make that rotation, then he was a step slow. Or was there something else that was something else that was supposed to happen or not happen there? Again, I don't know the answer to these questions. What I do know is that somebody fucked up. And that's a blatant example. There were a lot of other examples throughout the game, and this speaks to DJ's tweet that I just quoted, which is like your guys who are supposed to be at a certain level just aren't, as I'm seeing a bunch of tweets about Karl-Anthony Towns being asked about his thumb. That's exactly what the Knicks need. It's for Karl-Anthony Towns to go out with a thumb injury. Yeah. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say you're crazy because you're not. Like, if they had switched that and lived with it, I certainly would have been fine with it, regardless of the result. But I get where the coach is coming from, and if you want to, I don't know if this is a glass half empty argument or if it's a devil's advocate argument, but it's something. Typically, Thibodeau teams over the course of a season, they eventually figure this stuff out. And they eventually get better at this stuff, and they start defending in the way that he is trying to get them to defend. Is that going to happen this season? I don't know. And if it doesn't happen this season, what does it mean? Does it mean Tom Thibodeau's out of a job? Does it mean they make some kind of a trade? Does it mean that they trade for a center and put Cat at the 4? I have no idea. But we got 41 more games to find out. Thanks, Busy. Jibo, what's going on? Biggest difference from last year, can't get stops. Ugh. Yeah, and that's because last year they had one weak defender on the floor towards the end of these games. And again, Cat, other than that last play where if you think he was again, I'm just focusing on those last couple plays, but like there were a bunch of plays in this game where Karl-Anthony Towns, we're going to focus on those last two plays because we always focus on those last two plays, but the Pistons scored 124 points tonight. They didn't score 124 points on those last two possessions. They scored 124 points over the course of the game, and Karl-Anthony Towns being a generally weak defender at the 5 had a lot to do with that. And you saw that throughout the night. And they targeted him and they targeted Brunson. They wanted to get those guys in matchups, in actions. Last year, you had Isaiah Hartenstein at the 5 for the majority of the season. And you had Mitchell Robinson at the 5 for the early part of the season. But for me, that season came to life when it was Hartenstein. And Hartenstein, as we now know very well, as the Thunder showed with their wallet, is one of the 10 best defensive centers in the league, if not even better. The guy's awesome. It's understated, but he's awesome. He's great. And when you have a great defensive 5, funny how that impacts the Thibodeau defense. Yeah, they were a little small last year, but when you take away that weak spot, especially at that position, or when you take away that strong spot, especially that position, and you turn it into a position of weakness, it changes everything. And to that end, Precious hasn't been very good defensively either, but that's the difference. Sucks. It's annoying. And they got to figure it out. They made a bet and they got to figure it out. Kevin Danishevsky. Oh, I know where we're going here. Just terrific rotations from Hart there on the final sequences. Yeah, we talked about that. He needs to stop doing stupid shit. That's why it's interesting to hear him, talking about after the game, we should be winning these games. I agree with you, Josh. You should be winning these games, but you got to own it. You got to own it just as much as everybody else. And I'm not saying he's not, owning it in his own way, but I'm sure he is. Also, Deuce getting 3 second half minutes is questionable. I think I went stronger than you, Kev. I think I said, I forget what I said, but I said something that it was more than questionable. It was, I don't know if I said egregious. I wouldn't go egregious. I would go somewhere between questionable and egregious, whatever that is. I forget what word I used. Thanks, Kev. Appreciate you. Juanon, what's going on, Juanon? How is Scott Foster still reffing with what we know about the Tim Donaghy scandal? I'm with Dolan. Time to make the NBA great again. Crooked Silver. Hashtag fire Tibbs. Hashtag MNB age. Hashtag M. I don't even know how I was supposed to read that, but everybody who's seeing it on the screen sees what it is. Make the NBA great again. Yes. Yeah, I mean, the offensive foul call there on Cat late was, I mean, how you make that call in that situation is just beyond me. And here's the thing, it's not challengeable because you're never going to win that challenge, which is why Thibodeau didn't challenge it. But you're going to make that call there? Really? You're going to make that call? Come on. So, but look, they didn't. I'm not blaming the refs for this loss. I'm not saying you are either. Thanks, Juno. Jesse M, what's going on, Jesse? How you doing? For having two of the best wing stoppers in the NBA, I haven't been overly impressed with either player's defense this season. They always get cooked. There have been times there have been times where I've been impressed with OG Anunoby's defense. When he's good on defense, I think he's been really good. When he's been good on defense, he's been really good. But it needs to, like, the level of consistency at which he is, like, you see, and I'm not sitting there watching the Hawks every night or watching the Rockets every night, but, like, you see some of these other younger defenders out there where it's just like every night, just like a pain in the ass. And, like, OG's best might still be better than just about anyone's, like, but we have not seen his best enough. And I think to say that they always get cooked, that's way too strong. Bridges didn't even get cooked this entire, like, he was good. Like, Bridges was legitimately good in the first half against Cade Cunningham, a really tough assignment. And I thought he even made a couple plays. Like, again, that play he made late, like, that was a big play that he made on Cade late. It was good play, important play. But yeah, have they been underwhelming? Yeah, they've been underwhelming for sure. Be curious where the Knicks are in defensive rating rankings after this game. Oh, wait, they're up. They're 15th, which is, you know what? To finish the year 15th or finish the first half of the year 15th defense, that seems about right. Seems about where it should be. Thanks, Jesse. Al Diddy, what's going on, Al? This team needs to find themselves. The defense is putrid and turns the ball over too much. I mean, the turnovers, I could tell you without question, Tibbs is talking about turnovers tonight after the game. Other than, there is nothing in a basketball game that bothers Tom Thibodeau more than turnovers. Kills him. It's 3 points the other way. It's a great opportunity for 3 points the other way, and you've taken away a shot attempt yourself. Like, I know the Knicks got to the line a ton tonight, and that was good. They also cleaned up. The Pistons had a ton of offensive rebounds in the first half. The Knicks did really well in the defensive glass in the second half. They cleaned that up. I thought that was really good. Also, the Pistons didn't miss much in the second half, so maybe I shouldn't be so quick with my praise. But the Pistons still attempted 12 more shots in this game, and the Knicks attempted 11 more free throws. So, like, that wasn't great, the turnovers. But is it finding themselves? To me, the Thunder loss was you gotta figure out who you want to be. I said that on the postgame. You got to figure out. I thought tonight they came out fine. Like, it wasn't a great first quarter. The Pistons obviously outplayed them in the first quarter, but I thought the starting five just, like, lacked. So I guess from that, you know what? Maybe from that perspective, if you want to tell me that they need to find themselves, the starting five just didn't have it tonight. Like, when those five were together, it was just not great. There is something missing from that unit. I thought during times this year they had it. Certainly on offense, they've had it at times this year. On defense, I don't know that five has ever gotten there consistently over, like, stretches of games. But to me, it's just like, this isn't like a will or a desire or like this isn't like I don't know if this is a time for, like, deep introspection. I think this is like some guys got to look themselves in the mirror and be like, I just got to be better. Everybody needs to be better, to be clear. Thanks, Al. Robert W. Cross. Hello, Robert. It's your boy, John. My point of contention with the starting five is subpar point of attack defense and subpar rim protection. Can that really be fixed? Kudos for Detroit. I mean, it can. How do you want to go about fixing it? Like, you cannot tell me that they are incapable of offering better defense against dribble penetration than they offered tonight. You cannot tell me that they can't do a better job of that with this roster. You can't tell me that. I think we've seen it be better this year. Have not seen it nearly enough. You can't tell me with this roster that can't be better. It has to be better. And it should be better. Will they get it? I don't know. As far as the rim protection, was Cat in kind of a weak drop at times tonight? Yeah, he was in kind of a weak drop. Fine. I'll give you that. To me, it's the point of attack, and it's the rotations and the communication and the decision making and the connectivity and all that stuff. I'll find the stats for you, Robert, at where they are. And I know people, like, when they're mad, they don't want to hear anything about stats because they're like, I saw what I saw, and that's all there is to it. But I do think the stats to some extent can be helpful. So here, I'm already up on cleaning the glass. And again, this isn't going to factor in tonight's game, I don't think. So in terms of rim frequency, the Knicks are dead smack dab in the middle of the league. They're tied with two other teams in 15th in terms of frequency of shots allowed at the rim. They allow 32.3% of shots at the rim. And then in terms of accuracy at the rim, they are 14th. So the Knicks are at the rim in terms of limiting shots at the rim and in terms of preventing makes at the rim. They're exactly the same as they are in overall defense. They're a middle of the road team. So yeah, I guess that means it's a little bit more of an issue than I'm making it out to be. But that's not where my biggest concern lie by far in the defense. Thanks, Robert. Deadwards 604. What's going on, Deadwards? How you doing? Did I just go see a Knicks game or Monday Night Raw? Cade loves throwing elbows and pushing off, but the defense was horrible. Anyone who thinks Mitch wouldn't help is nuts. No, Mitch would absolutely help. There's no question Mitchell Robinson would help. Do I think he is single-handedly going to be the elixir to what ails their defense? No, I don't. Do I think you have to make compromises when you put Mitchell Robinson on the court? Yes, I do. And do I think Mitchell Robinson is going to help against the very best teams in the league who are able to draw your fives out to the perimeter and make them make decisions in rotation? Do I think Mitchell Robinson will struggle in those situations? Yes, I do. So there is a reason why I have not, for those three very specific reasons, there was a reason why I have not gone full bore towards a camp that I know a lot of Knicks fans are in, of just like, wait till Mitch gets back. When Mitch gets back, watch out. Of course he's going to help. He's a gifted defensive player. If he's the Mitch that we saw early last season when he was an all-defense candidate. What happens if he's not that guy? What happens if he's 70% of that guy? Or whereabouts? I don't know. So I would like the 5-man unit that has played like twice as many minutes as anyone else in basketball. I would like those guys to figure it out. That's what I would like. Thanks, Edwards. Dom the Dentist, what's going on, Dom? Objectively, good games that end in Knicks losses leave me feeling the most inexplicable sports emotion there is. Satisfied yet angry. I'm sangry. I am not satisfied. I don't know that I'm angry. Was that an objectively good game? It was a fun fourth quarter. It was definitely a fun fourth quarter. Both teams made shots. Both teams made tough shots. There was, despite what we're talking about now, there was some good execution on both ends, obviously. Like, here's the thing. We're killing the Knicks for their defense. Like, the Pistons went out and they executed, which I know nobody cares about, nobody wants to hear right now, but the Pistons went out and executed, and like Cade Cunningham made some tough shots in the second half of that game. I know nobody cares. So, yeah, it was good, but also, like, I don't think anyone cares about that because of the last two plays, because of this thing that we're talking about the whole time, which is like, yeah, there was some tough shots made, but there was also a lot of really subpar, at least what in terms of what we need, what we feel like we need to win games against good teams, subpar defense. And, there was also some like that freaking turnover with a minute to go. Just that killed you. That killed you. I like there's a part of me that is more mad at that turnover than I am at either of the blown rotations. Because that's where you're supposed to be at your best. Like, if they didn't, like, let's just live in a different world for a second. If they didn't make that turnover and they found a way to get either a Bridges 3 or a Cat 3 or somebody a 3, right? And Knicks go up by, what would it have been? Knicks would have gone up by a point, I guess, right? Or no, Knicks would have gone up by 3 points. Knicks would have gone up by 3 points. No, the Knicks would have gone up by 2 points. Excuse me. I can't add. Alex, you're right. Me doing math live after games is funny. They would have gone up by 2 points with, probably 50 seconds to go. Even if Detroit comes back down the other end and ties it up, like, you got the last shot. Let's say they hit the last shot, then Detroit misses their final attempt at the buzzer. What are we talking about here? We're talking about what a great win for the Knicks. What a great win for the Knicks. The defense didn't really have it tonight, but gosh darn it, they made just enough plays to get it done. Mikal Bridges with that great stop that I referenced earlier, forcing Cade into the 19-footer. And this offense is just, they are, they're gonna carry us home. That's the conversation we'd be having. Probably if they don't turn the ball over there. Right? But we're not having that conversation right now. We're sitting here talking about the defense stinks and the wings are not good enough defenders. And, I'm done with this. What was the first comment? I'm done with this team. Yeah. So, it could change on a dime. And that's, that's baseball, Susan. So I don't know what to say. Thanks, Tom. Joseph Milio, what's going on, Joseph? I know that Cade had a great second half, but why on earth are we doubling above the 3 with less than a minute left, leaving Beasley open on back-to-back possessions? Have OG go one-on-one with Cade. That's why you paid him. I would argue that Bridges was the better of the two defenders against Cade in this game. I actually was not upset that he went back to Bridges guarding him. They didn't double him. They brought Tim Hardaway Jr. into the action. And at that point, it is you either switch it or you concede a decent look. It's one of three things is going to happen. You're either going to play some sort of drop coverage or you're going to or let me rephrase that. You're either going to play some sort of soft coverage, which generally is going to allow a 3 from your ball handler. You're going to play a harder hedge, which is, just in this case, effectively a double, which is what they did, or you're going to switch it. We've talked about the switch. They didn't want to switch it. And they didn't want to play soft coverage because, by the way, they were getting their asses handed to them on soft coverage the entire fucking game. The whole game. Soft coverage. Nope. Not good. Not good enough. So they were like, you know what? Let's go bigger, go home. They don't pull that card very often, and they pulled it there. And then they did not execute it properly. I don't want to be the guy that says this, but what have people been asking for the whole freaking year? Let's get more aggressive at the level of the screen. Well, they got aggressive at the level of the screen, and it bit them in the ass. Which is why, by the way, you see all the drop that, there was a moment. Now you got me going. There was a moment it was definitely in the second half. I forget if it was in third or fourth quarter where, and again, the whole game pretty much they're in drop. Karl Anthony Towns comes up to the level. And I thought he did an okay job. I thought he was kind of more active than we've seen him at times when he comes up to the level. And Cade split the defense, got himself an easy 2. He would probably his easiest basket of the night. That's what can happen when you get aggressive. The problem is you are trying to compete for a title, which is why you went out and made this trade, because you're like, all right, well, I guess we think our best bet is to just outscore everybody and be just good enough defensively. Okay, fine. We'll see if they can do that. I don't know. But you have these other teams out there. Boston, they can switch everything 1 through 5. Oklahoma City, obviously, they can switch 1 through 5. And there are other teams that at the very least could switch 1 through 4. And the Knicks have 2 guys that they can't switch. And it leaves you with these difficult choices. And if it doesn't work out, you have people, screaming for whatever choice you made. So there you go. Okay. Kev, you want to do it now? We can do it now. All right. Let's take a quick word to hear from our good friends at BetUS. If you're looking for a new book this basketball season, BetUS, there it is your answer. The promo code YouTube150 to get you 150% bonus on your first deposit, as well as 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits, up to $2,000. And what do you get if you sign up with BetUS and you take advantage of that YouTube150 code? You get a whole bunch of stuff. You get the fastest payouts in the industry. You get a 24/7 personalized service, 365 days a year, live wagering on all major games, great betting variety, 10% back on your net losses twice a year. And just check out the BetUS link in the description below and take advantage of everything they have to give you, like a personal account manager. Again, the code YouTube150 for that 150% bonus on your first deposit, plus 125% on your next 2, up to $2,000. Remember, as always, gambling involves risk. All forms of betting carry financial risk, and it is down to you, the individual, to make bets with or without the assistance of the information provided. Okay. Continuing on, Jordan Miller. What's going on, Jordan? Great meeting the KFS crew last week. Thanks for coming out, Jordan. I'm sorry you saw such a shitburger of a game. As a team that struggles against the 3, I personally hate doubling there, especially with JB. Is that on tips? I mean, I just talked about this, so I'm not going to go rehash the whole thing again. But yeah, they went for a harder coverage, and they trusted the subsequent rotations, and the subsequent rotations were not there. Again, you're you are not supposed to give up an open 3. That's not the design. That's not the play call. When you double, it is not. That is in no way, shape, or form the intention. They did not, in any way, shape, or form, execute the play properly. Which, again, begs the question. Do you scrap it and do you say, well, we're never trying that again? Or do you keep it in your back pocket and you try to do better the next time? I don't know. Thanks, Jordan. Mecky, what's going on, Mecky? How are you? Can we investigate Natalie Segol? I have no idea who that is. I'm not going to lie. What's the Knicks win percentage with her versus the overall last 3 years? Anyway, back-to-back, it happens. The ref. Oh, the ref is Natalie Segol? I didn't know who that was. And you bring up also, but anyway, back-to-back, it happens. I think it's the first time. Yeah, it is the first time that I've said the words back-to-back. It's fun. I don't want, should I do this? I've already probably pissed enough people off tonight. I guess the energy stuff and the, like, they're dead legs and they're tired and Tibbs is running these guys into the ground. I mean, I don't know. I didn't see that tonight. I didn't think tonight was on. I didn't think tonight was an energy thing. I thought they played with pretty good energy. I thought the execution was poor. Now, you want to tell me that there's a nice meaty overlapping spot between in the Venn diagram of execution and energy? Yeah, I think there is. And that was probably a little part of it tonight. But like, I don't know. At no point in time, certainly during the fourth quarter, was like, man, this is a team on the second night of a back-to-back. In fact, I don't think I thought that once throughout the game. Doesn't mean it didn't affect them. But to your point, Mecky, it's like, yeah, it's probably a factor too. It's all a factor. It's not an excuse. And I'm not saying that you're using it as an excuse, but just in case anyone thought it was, it's not an excuse. Like you had this game there for you. You had a halftime lead that, by the way, and if you really want to get into the weeds of this, you could argue that they lost this game in the last 5 minutes of the second quarter, when Cade Cunningham goes out with his third foul, Cade Cunningham went out. I'm losing my mind here. Yeah, Cade Cunningham went out with. No, it was the end of the second quarter. I'm not going crazy. I knew it. Gets his fourth foul at the end of the second quarter. Has to go to the bench. You get this gift. No Cade Cunningham, and you can't cut into the lead. In fact, I think the Pistons may have gotten even closer during that time. And then on top of that, when Cade Cunningham went to the bench in the fourth quarter and you had an opportunity to make up points on the lead, you didn't make up points on the lead then either. So that's inexplicable. That's inexcusable. Where you're not taking advantage of those moments. You got to do better. That's where it's like you want everybody around the league to take you seriously. Do better in those situations. It's just an annoying. I'm not going to sit here and be like that was a distressing loss or that was a disheartening. Like, it was a freaking annoying loss in about 18 different ways. Thanks, Mecky. Jason, what's going on, Jason? If they're going to put two on the ball when Brunson comes into the action, why aren't they ready to rotate? This has been an issue all year long. What the F? It's a great question, Jason. I don't have a great answer. And I think that's my personal biggest issue with this team through 41 games is that right there. Why are you not better prepared in that situation? Is it because they're not practicing ever, as we've heard, to conserve their legs because they're playing so many minutes? Well, you talk about a vicious cycle. Are they in these games so late because they're playing, because they're making mistakes when they're on the court, because they don't have the practice time to avoid making those mistakes when they're on the court, which is why they need to go and play all the minutes. It's like, you go crazy with this stuff. It's a good question. Thanks, Jason. Sekou Burmis, what's going on, Sekou? I love everything about this Knicks team except how they play defense. Well, that's half the battle, unfortunately. I can't tell if you're being purposefully coy there or whatever. And the dissonance is slowly tearing me apart. Other than that, orange and blue skies. Let's go Knicks. Yeah, and there's a lot of fans out there who, again, there is a subset of fans who could not give a flying you-know-what about the offense. There are fans out there who the next time they hear me or anybody else out there say, oh, but wait a minute, they're the third best offense in the league. They're tied for the second best offense in the league. They want to take that piece of paper that's written on and crumple it into a ball and shove it down my freaking throat. And anybody else who chooses to, say that's that. Because to them, it doesn't matter if you're not going to defend. Because you can't win a championship if you're not going to defend. And they're right. You cannot win a championship if you cannot defend at a better level than we saw tonight. You can't do it. You can't win a championship. My hope and my contention to those folks has been the offense is real. And I don't know what more you need to see to know that the offense is real. And if anything, I think the offense can get better. I think they haven't yet found the synergy that they're going to be capable of finding the longer they play together. And they're in year one. Again, they're in year one of this thing. And guys have been through shooting slumps. OG Anunoby's in a shooting slump right now. Mikal Bridges has been in a shooting slump for half the year. Again, I don't want to sugarcoat this loss. But if you would have told me that after half the season, that both Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby would be hitting. Hold on. Would be hitting 30. This is you can't write this shit. OG or Mikal Bridges, 34.4% from downtown, and that's with tonight included. OG Anunoby, 34.3% from downtown. Almost identical numbers. If you would have told me that those two guys would be right at below 34.5% from three through half the season, and you would have asked me how many wins do the Knicks have, I'm pretty sure I would not have said 26. Pretty sure I would not have predicted that they would be on a 52-win pace. Regardless of what else, because they are so top-heavy, and the three-point shooting was always going to be so key. And you have two guys in your starting lineup that are just they're just not having good years from deep. Like, that's a big freaking deal. So this is all to say, I think it's going to get better. I think the offense can get even better. And the big difference between me and some of the folks out there is, like, I don't know that the defense could be worse than we saw tonight. Like, really. I mean that. And were they atrocious? No, they weren't atrocious. They were bad. You'd say they were very bad. Even that may be a little too strong. Like, with the personnel that they have, is their defense really going to be worse than it was tonight? Now, you could sit here and tell me that, like, they're going to face better offensive teams, and so it could look worse when you face a better offense. That's fair. But, like, I have to think the defense is going to get better. And yes, some of that is going to be personnel based. And yeah, whether it's Mitch or someone else or whoever, and they could maybe get another. And no one's going to want to hear this either. It's probably going to have to wait till the offseason for them to get a version of this team that can really defend at a championship level, if they ever get there. But thanks, Sekou. Kevin Danishevsky, what's going on, Kev? Did not think Mitch would be this critical to the Knicks' success. Pressure Chua has been the biggest disappointment this year, and none of the other centers are playable. Get back. Well, I mean, again, if you want to go bright side, one of their top 7 players, which is unquestionable that Mitch is one of their top 7 players, has played 0 games through half the season. And they have 26 wins in that time. Now, their starting 5 has been almost inexplicably healthy. Josh, I mean, together they have missed, like 5 games or 6 games, something like that, which is insane. It's truly insane. Deuce missed, a little bit of time, but, like, not really. But, so, I don't, but again, I feel funny sitting here and talking about how valuable Mitch is when, to me, he is at most the 6th most important player on this team. To me, he is. Others will probably disagree with that, but that's me. So I can't, I know what you're saying, that you didn't think Mitch would be this critical to their success. I don't know. I guess I still remain a little unconvinced that he is, but I hope I'm wrong. Thanks, Kev. Kevin King, what's going on? Thank you for the very generous contribution, Kevin. We appreciate that. So when is it okay to criticize Cat's game because he's the shiny new toy and Brunson's been getting the Ewing treatment now? You can criticize Cat. I mean, but I don't know what is there to, like, this is what you were going to get. This is this is the very best of what you were going to get from Cat. Like, to expect anything else from Karl Anthony Towns watching him over the course of his career, like, I don't think, then you haven't been watching him. If that doesn't matter and you're like, yeah, I don't give a shit that he's been this for the course of his career, I'm still going to criticize. If you want to criticize his defense, that's fine. I mean, I don't know that I shouldn't say that. It's possible to be a better offensive player. You could be Nikola Jokic. You could be, trying to think who's having a better offensive season than Cat other than Jokic. You could be SGA. Those are the only two guys that I could sit here right now and comfortably say they are definitively having a better offensive season than Karl Anthony Towns. You can make arguments for probably, I don't know, 6, 8 other guys, but Towns is in that conversation after Jokic and SGA, and those guys are one of those two gentlemen is going to be winning the MVP award this season. From that perspective, like, I think he's, for me, been better than I expected on offense. And he's been, honestly, he might be a little bit better than what I expect on defense. So I have a hard time being like, oh, Cat's a minus on deep. Like, yeah, of course. Like, everybody. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, if you want to criticize him for it, that's fine. I tend to think that that's a little unfair. I mean, for that matter, like, it sounds like you want to criticize Brunson a little bit too. That's fine too. I think, for me, Kevin, and this is just me, if guys have significant physical limitations and they are doing not the most that they can with those physical limitations, because I don't think either Jalen Brunson or Karl Anthony Towns is doing the most that they have with or can with the physical limitations. And to be specific, Karl Anthony Towns, he just doesn't move his feet well on defense. It's always been an issue for him. But, like, there's other stuff that they could theoretically improve upon. You want to get on them for that stuff, to be the very best version of yourself, as opposed to 83% of the best version of yourself. Yeah, that 17 or whatever percent makes difference. You want to criticize them for that gap, that's fine. I don't know, man. I got a tough time getting too hard on two guys who right now, if the season ended today, like, one would absolutely be, at the very least, a All-NBA second team player. And Brunson, I think, would have, an argument. So, thanks, Kev. Deadwards 604. This ties in with the defense, but these slow starts are killing them. That won't fly in the playoffs with good teams who will step on your throat. Yeah, 100%. And it was obvious. And again, the starting five tonight just didn't love. It was hard to put my finger on exactly what it was. A little bit turnovers, there was little turnovers, decision making on transition defense, certainly. You want to tell me the transition defense was because of an energy thing? That's fine. I did think they cleaned it up in the second half. But took a while to get going. Like, you gotta get better with that. Thanks, Edwards. Q left blank. What's going on, man? Timberwolves decided 3 years ago they couldn't be good enough for Cat at the 5. Well, the Knicks have to come to the same conclusion. I mean, I think it's fairly the single overarching question of the organization now. I don't think, and I think this is about Cat mechanics and their ability to go make significant trades. I do not think that you will see them go out and get a player on the level of a Rudy Gobert. For one, because there are no players on the level of Rudy Gobert. The guy's a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year award winner. Could I see them making an investment in a player who they plan on playing on the floor with Cat and who is at least passably a 5 or like offer some rim protection. I could see that. And yet it doesn't change I mean, I understand Cat at the 5 is different from Cat at the 4 defensively, but and with all due respect to what he did last year, top ranked defense in the league, Minnesota was. He was good throughout the playoffs in different capacities. Like he's shown that ability to be a decent defensive 4. You're still putting two guys out there who are, or all things considered, minus defensive players. Which is again why I think that they are going to explore I think they are going to go as far down this road as humanly possible before they decide to go in a different direction. But we'll see. Robert W. Cross, please let Bridges slide down to the 3, start Deuce at the 2 for point of attack defense, and move Hart to the 6th man. Okay, I won't ask anymore. Look, as long as they're, you know, having bad losses, and as long as they're, you know, their starting 5 is underwhelming, and I talked about the net rating of the starting 5 after last night after the Bucks win. As long as that's the case, like, this is going to come up. I'm not completely against Josh Hart moving to the bench. I'm not sure I would do it for Deuce. But that's me. I'm not low on Deuce. I think Deuce is a fine player. I just like that like you're telling me you're going to win a championship with 2 guards who were 6'3" and you're starting 5, one of whom was a minus defender. I understand the Cavs are attempting to do that. The Cavs are also, they have like, the Cavs are a unique team. I'll just say that. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't. Thanks, Robert. Thank you. Sean with a W. What's going on, Sean? After the Dallas loss, I sent you a super chat saying this team can't get stops. Let me rephrase that. I don't trust this team to get stops when they have to get one. Well, that's almost worse. Right? That's almost worse. Again, that sensation in this game of like, how are we, like, when you feel like throwing a parade when they did get a stop, it tells you everything you need to know. Teams know where their weak spots are, and teams know that they're not magically going to have an answer for those weak spots. Now, I guess the interesting thing, and this is maybe part of this whole larger conversation, is if you went and got a 5 who was obviously a good defender at the center position, but who was also not a stretch 5, and obviously can't do all the things Towns could do, but like a Hartenstein level player at the 5 on offense. Are there scenarios where you would see in a game like this where it's like, all right, well, it's going to be Jalen Brunson with the ball in his hands anyway. And if it's not Brunson, like, we trust Bridges to knock down the 3, and like, and yet, but it's a 5 that could like set a screen and operate on the short roll and make a pass and like all of the different things that Hardenstein was able to do. Could I see him like sitting Towns on the bench? Sure. Was Towns the problem in this game late? I mean, again, you could fault him for that not getting out if that was indeed on him. We don't know if it was, but and then like, where are you going to find that player? Isaiah Hartenstein just got paid $30 million a year. Is he actually worth that much? No, but he's worth, I don't know, 20. And those guys don't come around very often. Like, looking around the trade market, like, I don't know. I don't see one, an obvious one. We'll see. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate you. Chris Carter, what's going on, Chris? Watching a contending team that's not a contender is less fun than fun is fun. No, they're not. I feel like I'm pretty good at not jumping the gun. I think I probably jumped the gun the first OKC game when I was like, I've seen enough. Yeah, we saw enough for like a quarter and a half. It's not enough. You got to see a lot more. And they're not a contending team right now. They're just not. That's, and again, does that mean they can't get there? No, it doesn't mean they can't get there. You're not going to get me too down on, a team that is still, again, they're 26-15. I know nobody cares about that, and I know that's not impressive to anybody. I'm not going to sit here and dismiss the fact that they've been a pretty good team. Contending team, no. Pretty good team. Thanks, Chris. Dan Hidalgo, Cleveland's doing well with Mobley at the 4. Why not Cat? Oh my God. Evan Mobley finished second in Defensive Player of the Year voting, I think. Dan is saying when Mitch is back, yeah. Well, put Mitch aside. Evan Mobley is, that he's going to make an all-star team. He's going to be in the running for All-NBA. I don't know if he's going to make it. He'll be in the running. He's probably, it might be a top 5 defender in the sport. Karl-Anthony Towns is not that. He's not that. Thank you, Dan. Yeah, we do one more, and then we could do that, or we could do it now. Yeah, okay. Anthony Sixto, what's going on, Anthony? Deuce has not been right since coming back from injury. Not as explosive, more hesitant, and considerably less confident. Something is lingering. You want to get on the coach? That's fine. We're only playing Deuce 3 minutes in the second half. I said it at the top. I thought it was like, I was like, what do you, that shocked me. I think your counter argument is a fair one. It does not look like Deuce is all the way back yet. But he was part of a very successful lineup in this game. That was my favorite lineup that they had. So it's a little bit, column A, a little bit column B. Okay, let's go to the scoreboard presented by our friends at T Squared. Of course, you could go into T Squared. First of all, get a free beer if you tell them KFS sent you. But more importantly than that, learn about club memberships, trivia nights, sports leagues, and much more by going to tsquaredsocial.com. We do have another watch party coming up this Friday against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Very much hoping the Knicks can get a win against the Sixers, so the Knicks do not go into that game riding a 2-game losing streak. Although I guess looking at me, so I don't know if anybody saw on social today, we had our picks. Jeremy got first pick for the week. We're only picking 3 games. He picked 2-1 as I knew he would. And I couldn't bring myself to pick 3-0. And sitting here now, I'm happy I didn't pick 3-0 because if I picked 3-0, I would have already lost. Now I'm in the running. So now, obviously, one, I'm rooting for myself to lose. I would very much like for them to go 2-1 and to have Jeremy win the week. But if I have the choice, do I want them to win against Philly and lose at the watch party, or drop the next game against Philly and then really have the sky falling, or and then they go win on Friday? How about they go win both of those games and Jeremy wins the week and everybody's happy? Okay. Out of town scoreboard. Rockets beat the Grizzlies in what was a hell of a game. Second and third best teams in the Western Conference. You could argue, anybody who wants to put both of those teams ahead of the Knicks. Really, you could make an argument that based on how the total sample size for the Grizzlies, based on the total sample size for the Rockets, based on the fact that Dallas has not been healthy, you could make an argument. And then obviously, Denver has the freaking league MVP. You could make an argument that there are at least 4 and maybe 5 teams out west that are better than the Knicks. And then obviously Cleveland and Boston. So again, for everybody who's is frustrated because they're not better, I get it. Okay. Rockets over the Grizzlies 120-118. Raptors won a close game, good win over the Warriors. The Warriors, just to keep things in perspective, the Warriors are a game under 500. How'd you like to be a Golden State fan right now? I know you'd have 4 championships, so you probably wouldn't care. But Wizards kept it close against the Timberwolves for a while, but ultimately fell. Timberwolves, they're putting it together now. They're 12-18. And then games going on right now. Heat at the Clippers and Lakers at home against the Spurs. Okay. All right. Let's finish it up. Alex, what's going on? Alex, we are contenders. We are ass. Hashtag Knicks fan whiplash. I love it. We are the same team as we were at game 25. Good, but consistently inconsistent. Embrace it. That's the smartest thing anybody's ever said. I don't know about ever said. You're a smart guy, but I don't know that you said the smartest thing that has ever been said in the history of this post game. Although I don't know how high that bar is. It's the smartest thing that anyone said tonight. They have been consistently inconsistent. I think at this point you could look back on the 9-game. Look, I don't want to downplay the 9-game winning streak because they had some tough games in there and they earned wins, and I thought those wins were significant. But I think if you look at it and you're like, okay, they've won some tough games. They've lost a lot of too many tough games for our liking. They have had blowouts where they've been awesome against decent teams, and then they have had times where they have not shown up against teams that are maybe even a little bit less than decent. It has run the gamut. I think they figured something out after the first 10 games or so. And then since then, it's been more good, certainly more good than bad. But you're right. They've been consistently inconsistent. When is the next benchmark? I still think that there's time during this homestand because it is such an extended homestand. I feel like I want to see where they're at if we see any real noticeable #meaningful changes between now and essentially the All-Star break. And then the next one after that is, okay, how do they come out of the break? When they get some rest, when they maybe get a little bit of practice time, how do they look for the final 25 games? Those are your next 2 benchmarks. So every game you're looking for evidence. And then the more games that you string together where you look like a genuinely good team, the better you feel. Thanks, Alex. Man, I'm really bummed by this loss. Ugh. Anyway, Russ, of course we got to hear from Russ Guberman. Good monologue, JM. For only current players in the league, what top 3 former Knicks would you want if money was no issue on this bench? I'm shocked. Tonight they got beaten by a young athletic team. I figured you'd be crowing tonight. If ever you had a night to crow, it was this one. The Pistons are they young and athletic? They have the Thompson kid. That's really it as far as them being young and athletic. Jalen Duren, one would say, is very young and very athletic, and he looked like crap tonight. Beef stew was pretty good. Anyway, okay, 3 players, top 3 former Knicks would you want if money was no issue on this bench? For only current players in the league. Top 3 former Knicks would you want if money was no issue on this bench? All right, hold on. I'm going to give this a real answer because you know what? I've given you so much shit this year. You deserve as good an answer as I can muster up. I'm not saying it's going to be a great answer, but I'm going to pull up literally a list of all of the former Knicks in the league. If I could find it. Okay, here we go. I'm picking 3. Nope. Ozzie Sheckman. I don't think we need any Ozzie Sheckman. That's the other way around. Okie doke. Man. Okay, so in consideration, this is not my answer. In consideration, RJ, Dante is a yes. Dante is an easy yes. That's 100%. And current plays, what's up there for my next? You want money was no issue. Oh, Hardenstein. That's another easy yes. Hardenstein and Dante are the two easiest yeses on the board. In consideration, RJ, Grimes, IQ, Julius. Cam Reddish, obviously. Is Kevin Knox in the league? Don't know if he is. Make sure I haven't missed anybody. I feel like everybody who was on the Knicks like before that is probably out of the league by now, but I'm just going a little. Tim Hardaway Jr. not in consideration, but good to say his name. Lance Thomas. I wish he was in the league. He would easily be my third choice. And then, so this is a tricky one, and I'm happy I kept going down the list because I went down the list long enough to get to Kristaps Porzingis. It's not Julius. Man, they could really use someone with Grimes' skill set. I'm just trying to think, would Porzingis on a team with Towns? I mean, Porzingis is incredible. And I'm not factoring in, to be clear, that like by taking Porzingis, I am taking him off the Celtics. Oh, Kevin is telling me Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis deserves to have his name written down. He's not going to be my answer though. So I'm not factoring in that I'm like taking Porzingis off the Celtics. I just don't know how useful. I mean, he'd still be useful certainly with. Man, that playing KP and Towns together. Holy Jesus. How would that look? And then if I go Hardenstein, now I'm going to have three centers on the roster, What a great question, Russ. This is a really great question. Because you could legitimately go, I don't think, for as much as Hardenstein was such an easy yes, and Dante to a slightly lesser extent was such an easy yes, there's a world where I could go KP, and then, and then like pick two perimeter players, pick like, Quickly and Grimes, or, Quickly and Dante, or RJ and, Quickly, or whatever. I'm going to go, I could seriously do this all night. That's what somebody said. I'm going to go with my gut, and I'm going to go Hardenstein. I'm going to go DiVincenzo. Man, the one skill set that they need the most, which is point of attack defense, like Grimes has. Man, he'd be so good. I can't believe I'm going to do this. I'm going to go with Grimes. I'm going to go Hardenstein, Dante, and Grimes over Quickly, RJ, Julius, and Porzingis. That's really. I know there are people shouting obscenities at their whatever, wherever they are, that I didn't take Quickly as like an automatic number one. I just, same reasons that they ended up trading Quickly. Like you got Jalen Brunson on this team, you got Deuce on the team. I know Deuce is not Quickly. I'm not saying he is, but in terms of the value of the skill set, I just, given what else they have right now, their starting two guard plays 40 minutes a night in Mikal Bridges. Now, if Grimes is on the team, that how many minutes would he be playing? That's a fair question. Especially if I have Dante too. I'm going to stick with my answer. I'll go Hardenstein, Dante, and Grimes. It's a great question. Great question. And again, if you choose three different players, I wouldn't begrudge you. Freeway Hustler 21. What's going on, Freeway Hustler? I hope that guy's shaking their genitals. Okay. Rolling dice on our court will light a fire in this team. Oh, yes, because Beasley was shaking his stuff there. Light a fire in this team to stop letting this happen by locking in so tight the teams start to fear that flight to MSG. Tired of seeing shit like that. Yeah, it's absolutely, man. Absolutely. Amen to that. I don't mind you being angry one bit. Because at a certain point in time, it does come down to pride. Like, defend like it's, defend like it means something to you. And it's too often they're just not doing that. Now, if they turn it on before the playoffs and we see a different version of the Knicks defense in the postseason, I'm going to look back at nights like tonight. I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, you remember when we were losing our minds that they were giving up 124 points and they couldn't stop the Pistons in the fourth quarter? Well, maybe they knew what they were doing. Maybe they were just conserving their energy and they knew they'd be able to turn it on. I don't know that I could sit here and say, like, that's definitely going to happen, because I think that's probably a little wishful thinking. Thanks, Freeway Hustler. Okay, we got 3 in a row here from Haitian Ferg. What's going on, Haitian? Great to hear from you. I'm sure you've been busy because I haven't heard from you as much, but hope all is well. Okay. Did the front office see this coming and knew they'd need another year to complete this team? I'm going to answer that in a second. Did we drink Kool-Aid? Kev is telling me they can be answered separately. Okay, so I'll go one at a time. Did they see this coming and knew they'd need another year to complete this team? Yes. I 100% think they thought that if they actually made the finals or won a title this year, I think they probably, if you gave them true serum, they would have said, yeah, that's probably gravy. Doesn't mean they have to do a certain amount of stuff in the playoffs, but yes. Did we drink Kool-Aid that the media served up? No, I don't think so. I don't the conversation we're having the conversation that I had tonight, the opening monologue about the defensive issues that this team was going to face. We had literally the exact same conversation the night of the Towns trade. Exact same conversation. And then had it in a bit more detail and with a bit more of an X's and O's focus, I think the next night when I was on that Spaces with Benji. And we were having the Towns at the 5 conversation. So this isn't new. Are we ahead of the front office as a fan base? No, no, I don't think so. I think there's probably, reasonable minds in the front office may differ about certain stuff, but no, I don't think so. I just can't see Leon panicking. Let's go Knicks. And then, no, I don't think Leon's going to panic. And I honestly don't even know what a panic move would look like before the deadline. What? And honestly, if there was a player that he deemed good enough to go out and give up the 2030 swap and I guess 2030 or 2026 swap and a bunch of seconds and Mitch, if there was a player out there that he thought was worth giving all that up, I'd probably be like, okay, go for it. But I just don't think that player's out there. Okay. Next couple from Haitian. I truly feel that the balance will come from an improved bench that will give Tibbs more options to mix and match. This just can't be it. I feel like this is a temporary cost of exposing loophole that allowed the cat trade to take place. It's not crazy to think that next year is the target year for the chip. Haitian, I don't know if you just watch the post games or you ever catch the episodes with me and Jeremy, but all credit to Jeremy Cohen. He's been screaming this from the rooftops since July. This exact thing that you're saying. I'm just to show you that we had been talking about this and this is not a new thing. We have been talking about this since July. And I think probably we have slow played that concept because number one, when you have a summer like the Knicks just had, you make these moves, there's not a freaking person out there who wants to hear the words wait till next year, number one. And two, this isn't a wait till next year for the Knicks. They are in that gray area where Is a championship expected from this team this year? No, it is not expected from this team this year, but they should absolutely be competing. Like, they should not go into any series that they play and be like, we're going to roll over. Like they just got too good of a team. No, go out there and like, give it your best shot. And if you don't, and it's a walkover, that's a fucking problem. Which is why nights like this are a problem. All that said, do I think for a second that this is the final version of this team in this era? No. And I think that the upgrades that they will make will be meaningful upgrades. No hashtag. Unlike the Phoenix Suns, who made the Durant trade, and then instead of like playing it cool and staying calm and being like, let's, be responsible. No, let's take all of our existing flexibility and we're going to dump it into Bradley Beal, who might be the worst contract in basketball. And oh, by the way, who comes with a no trade clause. And why did they do that? They did that because Kevin Durant is 30 whatever years old. And maybe because they have an owner with an itchy trigger finger, but that was really more the responsibility of the Durant trade to begin with. But neither here nor there. The Knicks didn't go trade for a 30-some-odd-year-old Kevin Durant. They traded for a 27-year-old Mikal Bridges and a 29-year-old Karl-Anthony Towns, both of which are in the midst of their prime. And that is the big difference between this team and a lot of other teams who have made the sorts of moves that the Knicks have made. They have given themselves a real runway, which is why if year one of what should be a 4-year or whereabouts thing does not end as we all hope it will, and if it is an underwhelming season when we look back on it, it is not the end of the world. And the other reason is because, as you kind of allude to, this team is not boxed into second apron hell. In fact, they are going to do everything in their power to stay out of second apron hell, and I believe they will do that this summer. And that is going to allow them more flexibility. And yes, I 1,000% believe that through a combination of trades and signings, they will be able to add a real addition to this team this summer that is going to play real minutes. And that the final version of this team may not look exactly like the one that we're seeing now. The reason why the last thing I'll say on this, and to bring it back to the top, the reason why I'm not going to say just, it's all gumdrops and candy canes, just wait till, wait till Leon just waves his magic wand again, is one, it's not like they have a ton of assets. So it's not like they have the ability to go out and get if the perfect player exists, they may not be able to get that player. Number two, it does not take away the fundamental issue that we're talking about here, which is it's a team built around the offensive talents of Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson. All that said, yes, I think it will look a lot better once they continue to round out the roster. And I am more than hopeful of that. I'm like pretty confident that it is going to get better and look better. It's a question of, is it going to be better enough, good enough to elevate them where they're like at least on par with the very best teams in the league? Because right now they're not. Thanks, Haitian. I'm glad that you brought that up and that I got to do that, because I think that's an important part of the conversation tonight. Appreciate you. Kevin King, what's going on, Kevin? How are you? Second super chat. First one isn't read. First one isn't read for $20. But anyway, I guess I'm no longer welcome for criticisms in criticizing Towns' game tonight. But his constant, I'm hurt, facial expressions every game. Yes, he can look soft sometimes. Guess I'm no longer welcome for criticisms. No. Okay. So you could criticize Towns. You can criticize his game tonight, but it sounds like what you're saying is you're not criticizing his game tonight. You're criticizing his facial expressions. I don't care if he is making raspberries, and blowing bubbles with his spit into the air, and he is smiling like, Heath Ledger's Joker for the entirety of the time he's out there. If he plays and he plays well, that's all I care about. To your point about him being soft, I think there's been a lot of conversation this year. The most consistent thread of thought I've heard on Towns from my vantage point here doing these shows has been from people who are like, wow, I was told this guy is soft. He's clearly not soft. And I don't think anyone who's watched Towns this year would accuse him of being soft. However, and now I'm going to bring it back to you, I think part of the reason why he has the reputation of being soft is because of stuff like you're bringing up right now, which is that, yeah, he tends to look a little goofy at times during the game. And he does make these facial expressions. And he is a generally very expressive guy. And he doesn't hide his emotions, or he doesn't hide how he's feeling. And if something's bothering him, like, yeah, everybody up in the cheap sheets is going to know it. I don't care. In fact, I quite literally could not care less. That's part of his personality. I'm all for it. I would like for him to be more active in drop coverage and have less drives, line drives where he ends up in the stands and it's an automatic 5-on-4 and often an auto pull-up 3 or kick-out 3 the other way. I would like for him to avoid maybe one silly foul a game. I would like for him, if he shows a hard hedge, to make it a hard hedge and not, I'm there in spirit only. That's all the shit I care about with Karl-Anthony Towns. I could give 2 fucks less what look he has on his face. No offense to you. I appreciate the contribution. Appreciate you chiming in, but that's just my viewpoint. So we'll agree to disagree there. George C. What's going on, George? First time, long time. My first time questioning Tibbs' future, but things have gone stale. And his X's and O's don't make up for sabotaging the minutes load. I mean, I would disagree with the premise that things have gone stale. I don't know. I think you know it when you see it. If a team is stale, I don't think they're stale. They just beat the Bucks by 34 points on yesterday. Were they stale that night? Like, again, if Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns don't miscommunicate on what should be an extraordinarily simple initiation of an offensive play, and they score and they win this game, like, is it stale? Like, stale, you see stale in a lot of ways, and it's over the course of weeks. I don't think anything's gone stale. And the minutes thing, like, I don't know what else we have to say about the minutes thing. The minutes thing is the minutes thing. You either care or you don't. Thanks, George. Freeway Hustle 21. I want them to start taking shit more personal and take teams' hearts. I want total destruction. Am I wrong for wanting chaos? No, you're not wrong for wanting it. I don't. I don't know that it's not reasonable to expect that for 48 minutes of every game, to be very clear. But, and like, again, tonight was the second night of a back-to-back. So are you going to get their A-plus game out of the gate? Probably not. That they knew what the assignment was in the fourth quarter, and they knew what was coming, and it seems like, they clearly knew what was coming. They knew exactly what they had to do to stop it, and they could not stop it. I've been talking for however long. I haven't actually said how many points they 29 points in the fourth quarter for the Pistons. Like, I mean, whatever. But again, tells you all you need to know. Tells you all you need to know. I'm sitting here and be like, 29 points against the Pistons in the fourth quarter. That wasn't that bad. Really? That's where we're at now? Well, I'm like, that's cool. It's 29 points. That's what we're talking about here. That I've watched this team for 41 games. That's the attitude that I have. So that goes to your point. Like a team that comes out with that attitude on a consistent enough basis is not getting me to sit here and be like, 29 points, not the end of the world in the fourth quarter. No, it's really bad. It's not good enough. Not nearly good enough. Thanks, Freeway Hustler. OG team. What's going on, OG? Two things I hope haven't happened. Two things I hope for haven't happened. One, a deuce offensive jump, and two, running through McCall as another primary option. I thought they have run through McCall more at times. I think he's always going to be like, if Karl-Anthony Towns or Jalen Brunson's on the floor, you're never going to run the offense through Bridges. Should they do that more? It's an interesting question. It's not among my list of like most things I am most curious about moving forward. It's fair if you are. I'm not going to begrudge you that at all. I guess the question is, why am I not more curious about it? I'm not more curious about it because their offense is what their offense is. And Mikal Bridges when he has been going well, we saw him in his ideal role in his offense. The guy, he averaged 20. What did he average? 23 points a game for the month of December. Did they run through him as a primary option? I don't know that they really did, but like he was the perfect third option. So like the fact that we've already saw what it looks like when he is at his best within this offense, like that, we saw it already. I don't need anything different than that. Just give me that moving forward, and then the deuce offensive jump. I mean, I don't know if I'd call it a jump. I do feel like his quicker is trigger than ever. Quicker is trigger than ever. There it is. Spend that kind of a night. His trigger is quicker than ever. Putting these last few games aside, where he's still working his way back. And he hits a ton of shots. Like the fact that we have so many times this year been like, oh my God, thank God Deuce is in the game. And thank God that we have Deuce to hit these shots. On this team with this offense, how many times I've been like, thank God for Deuce McBride, man, on offense. What would we be doing without him? That speaks volumes about how much he's grown. So I don't know if it's been an offensive jump. I think Deuce McBride has gotten better as an offensive player, and maybe a not insignificant degree either. Shout out to him for making Bontemps all good contracts team, along with obviously Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart. Okay. I think that's it. Yeah, we're done. Man, I wasn't sure whether this was going to be a quick one or a long one. Turned out to be a long one. That's what someone said. Yeah, what a shitty night. I wish it was better. Wish they would have figured out a way to pull out that game. But you win and you learn. And let's hope they learned a few things tonight about what they need to do and how they can go out there and do it. Okay. Thanks for tuning in to the Knicks Film School postgame show presented by BetUS. Do your part to help us out if you like what we do. Subscribe to the channel, obviously. That's the biggest thing. Or if you're listening on the podcast, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. And then, 5-star rating. That's a great thing. And a nice review also helps. I think, pretty sure pregame pod coming up for the Philly game. I am recording tomorrow night with Dexter Henry, so stay tuned for that podcast. And then if anybody is out there, last thing, either joined the new Brunson tier of the Patreon, is an existing Mellow tier member of the Patreon, or is thinking about joining the Knicks Film School Patreon now that we have the new Brunson tier featuring all kinds of great stuff from Benji and DJ. I am recording an episode with DJ on Thursday. That'll be coming your way on Friday. We already have a fun format picked out that we're going to be doing, and very excited about that. So stay tuned for that as well. And then last thing, watch party Friday night, T-Squared Social for the Wolves game. Be there or be T-Squared. Hopefully the Knicks are coming off a win, and by the end of that night, we'll be riding 2 straight wins. So we will see. Until next time, I will talk to you soon. Take care.